Welcome to the Does This Happen to You podcast, where we explore the funny side of truth is stranger than fiction stories. Our story this week is from Rachel A. Pfeffer, who you'll find on medium.com. And here is, when I charged 5 tanks to my Visa card, the bankers at Chase wanted to chat. I mean, who wouldn't be concerned about giving me my own private army? John and I got engaged less than 24 hours after meeting, and we were married within months, so we didn't really know each other all that well at the beginning. We'd met while I was representing the boys at Boots and Coots International Well Control. Those are the guys from Red Adair's old crew who put out Kuwait, and John had recently taken them public. It was a perfect storm of stupidity giving them access to that much money, and I was brought in to deal with some of the blowback. But I digress, as always. John was a securities lawyer who did small company finance deals out of this place, Le Chateau de Barbarèche, near Fribourg, Switzerland. My litigation practice in Texas had pegged the weirdo meter too many times, and I actually thought doing this might be more normal. Boy, was I wrong. Like myself, John attracted the strangest clients with the oddest deals. That's how I ended up in Sweden, blowing things up with their firefighting team and then buying demilitarized tanks over dinner. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The client. Steve is a certified genius, and he's also certifiable. Don't worry, he knows I talk about him this way, and we're still friends. I actually met Steve before John when I had to help him pick up some stuff he'd stored in one of the Boots and Coots warehouses. The stuff happened to be nuclear well logging tools that required a NEST team to relocate. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but the shit was dangerous. I knew that much. I was worried about glowing in the dark, but Steve didn't bat an eye. By now, I can remember all the strange deals he brought to our door. Each one was weirder than the last, and when two coincided, life got very interesting, very fast. The boondoggle. To get a company financed, you have to know what it does and what it plans to do with the money you're raising. That often requires a due diligence trip, and it's why I've seen everything from granite mines in the Brazilian jungle to fish farms in Ha Long Bay, Vietnam. Admittedly, some of the trips weren't absolutely required, but when you get a chance to travel to exotic destinations on someone else's dime, you take it. When Steve showed up in Switzerland with the Dito Stop deal, we were excited. Another mad scientist he'd met had invented an expandable aluminum mesh you could put in gas tanks to prevent explosions, a la Michael Bay. They'd managed to get a line item added to the military budget so specific that only this product would fit, and that was more than enough to justify another round of financing. A scion of the Volvo family had previously invested in the deal, and he had a place in Switzerland. When we hooked up with him for the evening, he regaled us with tales of life growing up in Chez Volvo. It sounded a bit like Downton Abbey, and when he asked if we dressed for dinner at the castle, I had to laugh. Dress? You're lucky if we shower. He was a fun guy and had fun connections, one being an inn with the Swedish Firefighting Institute in Göteborg, Sweden. We were scheduled to go test Dito Stop in the field with the Swedish team when one of Steve's other deals heated up. It was for Armored Technologies, a project that involved retrofitting demilitarized tanks with high-pressure water cannons to use against forest fires. Since I was more the cruise director and John was the in-the-weeds guy on these things, it was decided I would go to Sweden with Steve and Volvo Man while John worked on the other deal at home. John felt comfortable sending me alone because Sweden hadn't achieved nuclear capability, and any international incident I caused could be controlled. That kind of became our rule of thumb. John was supposed to stay home papering this new project, but he did more than that. The conversation. After a day shooting mortars at jeeps and scrap personnel carriers, I was ready to kick back with a nice glass of wine over dinner. I'd already had a couple when I heard Steve's phone ring. I knew he was talking to John about something, and I found out what that was when my phone rang 5 minutes later. Seems the Canadian military had listed 5 decommissioned Leopard tanks on eBay for arms dealers or some such site, and since they had full biohazard sealed driver's compartments, they'd be perfect for Armored Technologies' plan. Problem was, Armored wasn't funded yet, and the sale was going on right then. Another problem was, John and I got emotionally invested in these deals, and that often led to financial investments, as it did here. John had thrown caution to the wind and put in the high bid for these beasties, but the banks in Switzerland were closed, and he didn't have access to enough credit to get it done. I did, and he asked if I'd put them on my corporate card. What the hell? Who even gets to do that? Obviously, I said yes. When the charge wouldn't go through, I had to call Chase, who didn't know I was living in Switzerland or traveling in Sweden. Customer service. Ms. Pfeffer, I see this transaction didn't go through. You say you're currently out of the country? Yes, I'm in Sweden on business, blowing things up with the Swedish firefighting team. Right. So, what is it you're trying to buy from the Canadian military, is it? 5 Leopard tanks, demilitarized, of course. They had an online auction, and we're going to use them to fight forest fires. Miss Pfeffer, have you been drinking? Yes, but I don't see how that's click. I was able to get a manager on the line without being a Karen and got everything taken care of. So we got the tanks, and one of them was used to fight the Biscuit Fire in Idaho back in 2002. So that's how I ended up owning my own private army. There's still 1 or 2 of those things parked in Houston somewhere. If there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I'm set. Now you should be set for the day. Hope you enjoyed this little meander down memory lane. Make it a good one. Make some cool memories if you can. And for more of mine, just stay tuned here. There's always more. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Kepler, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these stories as much as I enjoyed narrating them. I'd love for more people to hear these wonderful stories, so please share and tell your friends.